Hey guys, welcome to Tamiya Legends, and once again thank you for stopping by. In today's video we're starting the restoration of the stunning Tamiya Boomerang. I was lucky enough to find an original. It needs a lot of work, but that's that part of the fun, isn't it? So let's just have a quick look at the car itself. Right, so before we look at the car itself, I just thought I'd show you what I've put together in order to get this resource started. So we'll start with radio gear first of all. We're going to be using 2.4 gig trigger. Obviously we've got a micro receiver to put in. Speedo wise, the car itself has got the manual speed controller set up, but I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to use the New Rain 320 amp unlimited brushless speedo, which I really do rate. It's nice and cheap, and I love it. It's a great speedo. I'm going to take the opportunity to use the Tamiya Sport tuned in this. I've only used this motor in the lunchbox so far, so you can never really see what it can do. But I think it's a perfect motor for this car because, as I say, this is an original, and we certainly don't want to put something really powerful in and kill it. So we're going to go with Sport Tune motor. I've gone for obviously the car is, as I said, it's an original, but it's not sprayed in box art white. Unfortunately, it's got this silver finish. It's in pretty good condition, and it'll clean up well. But as I always do, I like to go box art. So I ordered a new Tamiya Boomerang Riri shell and wing. So it's genuine Tamiya. So we'll get cracking on that, and with that I also ordered the Riri Tamiya decals, which gives it a really nice finish. This car was only missing before I strip it. It needed the blue brace that sits the driver unit on, and then that bolts to the chassis. So I got this off of one of our Facebook group members, which I was really appreciative of. He gave me it for free, and I just had to pay the postage from the UK. So that's fantastic. We've got a bit of an issue with the wheels. 3 of the wheels have started to yellow, which in itself, if all 4 were the same, it wouldn't be too much of an issue, but one of them is pure white, and as you can see, it stands out. So we might have a dabble. I've sprayed these before, but I think it kind of spoils them. But I believe you use some peroxide, mix it with water. So I'll have a look at that, and we'll have a dabble and see what we can do, and see if we can get the yellowing off these wheels. I've also heard that T-Cut can do it. So before I start this process, I'll do some research. We've got the original tyres that we used, a little bit muddy. We put these on the big wig to save the new tyres, but these are original, but there's plenty of life left in them, and once they're cleaned up and when we put it on the shelf, when it's finished with the silicone spray, they look great. So we've got everything we need. The bumpers hanging off. So this was a donor car. I've had this ages. As you can see, I took the gearbox off. I needed some screws, and everything's just sort of sat in there. The only thing I know it needs straight away is one of the drive shafts is quite badly bent, but these straighten quite easily. They also bend very easily because of the droop on the arms, and it's not a really smooth. The drive shaft into the coupling, if the suspension's fully down and fully turned, it can lock, which bends them. So anyway, we can fix that. So let's have a closer look at the car now. Right, so that's the car stripped down to sort of how I need it at the moment. So the really good thing straight away is I've not found anything broken, which is always a bonus. So all the plastics are intact. The shocks need a good clean. The shocks will need draining, and as I say, get some rust marks off the springs and what have you. But everything's here, that's the main thing. Couple of odd screws missing here and there, anti-roll bar, front anti-roll bar just needs straightening. The chassis itself, no cracks, so I'm really chuffed with that. Again, just wants, first of all, cleaning up and then greasing. Front gearbox, as I say, it's got this drive shaft's bent. I don't know if you can see that, or you should be able to see that. So that's going to have to come out and straightened. But to be fair, the pivot bolts need to come out and to be re-greased as well, and re-grease the drive shaft couplings and the drive shafts themselves. But again, it's intact. Rear gearbox, the arms are stiff, but that's no biggie. I don't think I've got any bearings for this, but I've got brand new plastic nylon bushes, so when I take it apart I'll fit it with them and re-grease them. But the gearbox itself seems fine. I mean, these are pretty much bulletproof. These are a really sort of good design for Tamiya. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this motor in for the time being, because this motor is mounted on the old, what would you call it, metal shims. So I don't actually know, because I haven't got a manual, I'm not actually sure on what position it needs to be for whatever pinion size. So I think what I'll do is, when I've got this cleaned up and finished, I'll take the motor out last to fit the sport tuned, and I'll, depending on what size pinion's in, I'll try keep it the same and just put the new motor in. So yeah, it's so far so good. I think that's what we can say. So the next step now is just to do each bit individually, and then see what we find as we do that. Right, that's the stage one of the chassis complete. So I've got it cleaned up. It was just dust and residue. There's a rust screw there, but I'm not going to change it yet. That's something I can do at a later date. So as you've just seen, I took the steering apart and re-greased it and re-greased the ball joints. It's not the best steering ever on this car, but that's much better than it was. It also had a bolt missing, and one of the bolts was slack, so it would have had a lot of slop, or a lot of play, I should say. So anyway, that's stage one done. So next thing, we will move on to the front gearbox. We'll get these pivot bolts out, we'll get it cleaned up, and we'll see if we can get this drive shaft straightened. Alright, let's get cracking. Right, that's the front gearbox, stripped and all cleaned. It's come up really nice actually. I am taking a flyer on the gearboxes. Hopefully this won't come back and bite me in the ass later. But it feels, I mean, it's well used. You can tell it's slightly worn, but there is no crunching. So as I say, I'm going to take a flyer on that and not strip those down. If I had bearings for it, I would have done. But anyway, that's cleaned up nice. The arms are pretty decent. I've taken the old crappy nylon bushes out. I've got a set of 4 new ones here. I've cleaned the suspension mounts up, cleaned the pivot bolts up. I've straightened the drive shaft. As I said earlier, these are incredibly soft. So as easy as they are to bend, they're also very easy to straighten. So we've got that straightened. I've also straightened the front anti-roll bar that had a kink in it. and cleaned that up. So the next step is now we'll get our trusty grease, and we'll get this section built back up and see how it goes together. Right, that's the front gearbox back together. Much better with the grease. The arms are nice and free. Excuse me. That drive shaft that I've straightened, you can't tell now, which is awesome. A little bit of movement in it, but I say I put new bushes in. So yeah, happy with that. Let's get cracking on the rear gearbox. Right, that's the rear gearbox assembled. That took a lot longer than I thought. I messed around a load with the fitting of the motor. The pinion, it had a massive like 22 tooth pinion in it on the standard 540, which is too big, and it had worn unevenly. So I'm a little bit worried about the main spur gear inside. Visually it looks okay, but I'm not going to really know until I put it all together and I put a bit of power through it. So I think the next step now is to bolt both gearboxes to the chassis, and then we'll go from there. Right guys, I made a mistake and I should have fitted the steering servo, so before I do that, I've hooked all the electrics up just to test and make sure everything's working, which it seems to be fine. So I've trimmed the steering servo back to 0, that's working fine, and I've just done a quick test of the gearboxes to see how it sounds. So again, I won't know too much until I get the wheels on so I can actually feel it. But yeah, so let's go to next step. So I wonder if anyone noticed I completely built the back end wrong, and I had the wishbones the wrong way around. Didn't realise, for some reason I just assumed the shocks went on the back, and obviously on the Boomerang they don't, they go down the inside. So instead of recording it all, I've just changed it round, so the back end's built back up. As you've just seen, I tested the electrics, because I also made the mistake of not fitting the steering servo. I'd actually misplaced because it's got a special like a horn that goes on the servo saver, like a pin which sits inside of this like ratchet. So I've got to take the gearbox back off and fit that servo, and then I'll get it back to this stage. So I won't bore you with the details, but it just shows you, doesn't it, when I'm more concentrating on making silly videos than building it right, which is really frustrating. Anyway, I'm aware that this video's sort of rattled on, but I think we've made decent progress, to be honest. When I was revving it sounded okay. It definitely didn't sound crunchy, and to be fair, I mean, these are all gearboxes and all designs, so we don't sound great anyway. So I think we'll call this a date part 1. So once again, thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, if you could please consider liking and subscribing to support us, that would be much appreciated. And most of all, happy RCing.